Hello everyone. Welcome to the UserBricks channel. Today we are going over the structure of the mob element file in Mcreator. This one, you'll probably have it a little more opened up. I've shrunk things down just for the sake of this video. This video is going to be uploaded along with a custom mob animations video, and this video will give you some of the knowledge you need as to the file structure so that you don't get entirely lost in the animations video. But before we jump into that, I want to tell you and let you know that every Friday I will be posting a question on my Discord channel as to what video will be posted the next Monday. So don't forget to check that out every Friday. Okay, back to the video. The first thing we need to have is a very basic understanding of how Minecraft itself has its files structured to create an entity, or which is a mob in this case. So yeah, in the Minecraft files given to us, so not the source files, which is where Mcreator will hold all of its files, but in the Minecraft source files up here, there are 3 different files that create your entity. Those can be found under the Entity tab and generally around here, so that would be under Monster for monsters like Enderman, Husks, Golems, really anything that attacks something. And then AI is just AI, it's stuff that an entity or a mob can do. Then of course there's passive, which is like cows, donkeys, anything that doesn't attack. And of course there's bosses, which is just the 2 for Minecraft in 1.12, which is the Ender Dragon and the Wither. The other 2 files are under Client, which I know it's a little odd, but these other 2 files are only done on the client side and not the server side. If you don't know the difference, there are plenty of videos on YouTube that you can look up to explain the difference. All you need to know is that the client side is the visuals on your side of the computer, and then the server side can either be, well, the server side is all of the it's hard to explain. But anyway, the client side is pretty much what you see, like all the GUIs. That's where your texture packs are loaded and where all the visuals are held. So the models are under model, and then there's also, I believe, under renderer and entity, there are all of the renderers. Now, I have loaded examples of these. These are all the ones that create the evoker. There are these 3 files right here: entity evoker.java, render evoker.java, and model illager.java. So to understand what these do, well, these are the 3 files that create an entity or a mob. There is the renderer, which holds all of the data for how an entity is kind of rendered. This does not include animations or whatnot. It's different things like layers, which the evoker the evoker has a layer for I believe the item in its hand. And then it also has the resource location, which is the texture, which is returned evoker illager, which is created up here in the evoker illager, equaling a new resource location, which is just a texture most of the time. And then you can see the texture path, which is what files it's under, and then the final .png file. And then below that is a render callback. Oh, I remember what this does. This allows the modifications to happen. It's like the scale and whatnot. But that aside, that is the basics of the renderer. It's not a large file usually. However, it can get a little larger at times, but generally you don't need to mess with this a whole lot. The render file should mention the model file. Yeah, super the render manager, and then a new model illager. It uses the model illager just like the oh, what are the other two illagers called? Well, all of the illagers use the model illager model. They just each have different textures. Anyway, the model illager is, of course, the model, and in here is all of the different things. It will generally, the models always extend a model base. You don't need to know what that is at the moment. Yeah. So the first thing that generally is here is all of the cubes in the model. If you've created your own model, this file is actually what you export in the .java format and import into Mcreator. This has the different, well, first it creates a cube and sets where its texture is, and then it sets the rotation points and the texture offsets, and it generally goes through. Most of the time these will also have a rotation. Sometimes they don't, as you don't need every single piece. So let's find arms. I can't exactly find a rotation specific thing in the illager file at the moment. Actually, I believe all the rotations for this model are actually set in down below, which is where animations will be held. Right below the model, you could say, is the void is a renderer. It doesn't do a whole lot. It just helps. Yeah, it sets the model's various rotation angles, then renders the model. This is where, when things aren't exactly moving, you can use this. And then below that is the where normally animations are done, as this is where like the walking animation is done and whatnot that Mcreator does. So you can see that in the mathhelper.cosine, and this is a function, as in animations are functions. So if you know your math, you can pretty much figure out what to do. Anyway, that is the general structure. This getArm function just tells it whether the mob is left-handed or right-handed. That's pretty much what that is. Anyway, the third file would be the entity evoker. This is where all of the AI and attributes are stored. You will recognize a few of these once we get into the actual Mcreator things, as this is where most of the things you can edit are. Actually, now that I think of it, all of them are. So the world in the entity evoker thing, that is just experience value and the size, that's the hitbox. And then there is the AI, all of the tasks like wandering, attacking, all of the other things. Now, you can create your own AIs if you know how to do that. I personally don't, so we won't be going over that in any future videos that I am planning at the moment. Next up is some attributes. This is the movement speed, the follow range, and the health. Next up is just the entity init. This references the main Minecraft entity init. You don't need to know what that is. You don't need to know what the register fixes evoker is either. There's also the read from NBT and the write to NBT. That's just how the entity will save all of its components and then load them back up when you restart the game. Then there's the loot table usually comes after that. And if you know how to create a loot table, you can use it right here. So yeah. Then there's update tasks. That's a very short thing. It's just update AI tasks, really short. On update, same thing, really short. There's also all the sound events, like the ambient sound, death sound, hurt sound, and then there's a bunch of different ones. Generally below here is where custom AIs will go. So actually those are down underneath the classes. So the AI attack spell for the evoker and whatnot, all of those different spells for like the jaws and changing the color of sheep and whatnot are kept down there. There's also handling right above that for when to do the different spells. Overall, the entity evoker.java is the file that controls the entity, and where the renderer and the model are the visuals, how the entity will look. Okay, so now in Mcreator, all of these files have been smashed into one file. This file has a general format. So first will be the Mcreator crab class. This class is the mod element. It also acts as the renderer. In here, it will also register the mob, which is usually held in a separate class altogether, where you register all the blocks and whatnot as well. Below that is two classes. Classes are files, pretty much. So there's the entity crab. You can tell what that pretty much is, and then there's the model crab. This is for an entity from my mod, the Traveler's Adventure, or Adventurecraft, as it will soon be known as. So yeah, inside the entity class. Come on, please open. Please, thank you. Oh, something I forgot to say is that the second class, the model, won't show up unless you have imported a custom model for your mob. And since all of the animations are handled in that, you will need to create your own model and then import it and attach it to your entity, if that is what you're trying to do. But back to the entity crab class. In here, it's pretty much the same as the normal Minecraft file. It has all of the different things. In here, you will also find this, which handles all the tasks as well from the Mcreator tasks. There's also different attributes. Yep, and then the get item dropped. You could switch this out with a loot table, but there is also down below the rare drop. This is, of course, the rare drop that you select in the Mcreator. And there's the breeding item, which you can also select in the normal Mcreator entity creation bit in the very last, along with all of the AI settings that you can do. There's also the eye height. There's the child, which you can create a different model for. I'm not entirely sure how. You can look, I assume, at the cow entity or the pig entity, or possibly even the chicken entity, as they all have different models for their kids, and you could possibly do that as well. Anyway, there's also other things like all the sounds and whatnot. Next up is the model class. This, as I have previously mentioned, is the same exact class or thing as the one you imported into Mcreator. The model is down here under public model, and then the name of your mob, and it'll look exactly the same as the model I showed you for the illager, or actually it'll have the same type of setup. So there is all the different things. It will also come with texture width and height. That may be slightly different based off of what model creator you use, whether you're using Blockbench. Why am I blanking on the other ones? Techni, or I forget the last one, but anyway. The next up from that is, of course, the renderer. You saw this before. This is just pretty much childing, translating, and whatnot. If you're using other things, this can change based off, again, what thing you're using. Some of these things may be, instead of being in the renderer, they may be in your model. Anyway, there's the set rotation angle bit, which is just a thing, helper function from Taboola. There's the third one, Taboola. That's not really much. I believe Techni uses it as well. And then down below here is the animations. You can see some of them right here. So for the head, there's the different things. So F3 and F4. those I will be explaining in the animations thing, what they are. But yeah, this is where all the animations are kept. When you import your model, you may have used the animations pop-up window to set your animations that Mcreator has. And if you do, the set rotation angles, that will be filled with those animations. But generally, if you haven't used that, it will either be empty or not even there. So, yeah. Yeah, I believe that is actually it for the video. For the organization of the mob file in Mcreator. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, or leave a comment on my Discord server, which I highly suggest you go to, as I am going to be active on that a little bit. Yeah, so if you enjoyed the video or found it informative, leave a like and subscribe, and consider hitting the bell icon to see more content like this.